Hi. In this movie, I want to look at the types of books available today. In my opinion, there are three. The legacy book, which is the traditional bound paper book. The ePub book, which is a book which can be read on a mobile device. And finally, the multi-touch book, which can be read on an iPad or a Mac. Let's look at each of them. In the legacy book, the writing comes first and the images are second, and the book contains writing plus static images. In the ePub book, it tends to be the writing is first and the images are second, and we have writing plus static images. The multi-touch book is somewhat different. Here it's the widgets that come first and the writing second. The widgets are much more important, but what exactly are widgets? Well, let's look. There are 9 types. A gallery, where you can show photographs. A media, where you can show movies. A review widget, where you can ask questions interactively. A keynote widget, an interactive widget. A 3D widget, a scrolling sidebar widget, a popover widget, an HTML widget. And it's widgets that really distinguish multi-touch books. They add dynamism. Because ePub books are really quite similar in the things they can do to the legacy book, I'm going to ignore them for the rest of this presentation and concentrate on just legacy and multi-touch. In 1985, I published a legacy book, and in it I wrote about the experience curve. In 2015, I published a multi-touch book, and in that I wrote about the experience curve. Let's look at the differences. Here's the legacy book. You can see the title of the book, and these are pages 70 and 71. Here's the experience curve, and there's the source of it, that costs decline as volumes increase. Here is data for an 80% experience curve. Here is the formula for the experience curve. And on the next page, I have 3 diagrams. Here is the experience curve shown arithmetically. Here's it shown on log paper. And here are 3 different experience curves: 90%, 80% and 70%. And that is how I wrote about the experience curve in 1985. Let's go to 2015. Here's the same material portrayed completely differently. This is the Curtis Jenny, and let's have a look at the Curtis Jenny in action. This plane first flew in 1915 in the United States, and they made thousands of them. I can't remember the exact number, it's maybe 5,000, that sort of number. And in the process of constructing these planes, they discovered a sort of mathematical law, which I'll talk about in just a moment. But now, just have a look at the Curtis Jenny coming back in to land. What they discovered was that there was a clear relationship between volumes and costs. As volumes increased, costs went down, but it just wasn't due to economies of scale. There were other factors at work. And furthermore, as all of you know, volumes and costs are vital in the internet era. This discovery lay in abeyance until really, I guess, the 1970s, when it was refined by the Boston Consulting Group in their seminal publication, The Experience Curve. And they divined a law, and here it is. Every time the accumulated volume of production doubles, costs can be made to decline by somewhere between 5 and 40%. The words in blue are important because it's not the volume of production, it's the accumulated volume of production. And it doesn't happen automatically. It requires managerial action. Can be made. This really meant that future costs could be predicted, which meant that you could price today on the basis of your costs in the future, which were almost certainly going to be lower. Here's an illustration of an 80% experience curve. It's the same one as in the legacy book, but it's portrayed, I think, a bit more clearly. Let's look at this on a graph. Here it is on arithmetic graph paper, an 80% experience curve. And along the bottom we have the accumulated volume of production, which of course is the experience, and going up the left hand side, the unit costs. And you should be able to see that every time the volume doubles, the unit costs decline by a fixed amount, in this case 20%. But you should also notice that unit cost reductions reduce greatly as volume increases. Now, it is the case that arithmetic graphs are less easy to read than log-log graphs. So here is an 80% experience curve on double log graph paper. Here we have at the bottom the experience, which of course is the accumulated volume of production, and here we have the unit costs, and that's in real currency, and here we have an 80% experience curve. Easier to read, easier to see, easier to predict. Log-log simplifies comparison, so that if I have 3 experience curves, say an 80% one, a 70% one, and a 60% one, I can make comparisons about future costs. This is exactly the same material as was used in the 1985 publication, but my goodness, I think it's so much more alive. Let's compare the book types, and this time I've included ePub. If we look at them, we can see that multi-touch books have so many features in comparison with the others. And in fact, when we look at the first column, it's the only one that has all those features. Let's compare the excerpts from the 2 books. In the multi-touch, we had colour, text, diagrams, animation, photos, keynote, movie, voiceover, music, URLs, dictionary, thesaurus, Wikipedia, URLs, study cards, study share, internet access, and email. In the legacy, everything in black and white, text and diagrams, and that's it. The more senses that are stimulated, the greater the learning. So to me, it's an open and shut case. Multi-touch books. In my opinion, widgets combined with iPads are a winning combination in learning. When we put them together, I think they become the vehicle for transforming MBAs. Thank you and goodbye.